Welcome to Theory of Conspiracy. A couple of northern lads from the UK discuss plots, cover-ups, and the unexplainable.
Hi, I'm Andy the Skeptic.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I believe.
You ready to go, dude?
If you've got the computer power to create a universe this complex, then you shouldn't be having software updates or glitches.
Whether that's UFOs in the desert, screwdriver pear flamingo. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Then a woman says, I was abducted by aliens, and they brought me back a fish finger.
So Bobby says, so Carlos, do you firmly believe we're in a simulation? Yes, he does. And Mr. Paris says, wow, really? I thought this was just a discussion about Mr. Musk's quote. Unfortunately not. Carlos has had some dreams about it. You had to hide from that behind your sofa, didn't you?
And so, yeah, I think dreams, I'm not the biggest dreamer in the world, but when I do dream, I dream big.
Not many bloopers so far, man.
It's a subject where it's difficult to have banter with. You can have fun, but because it's so complex and it's got everyone baffled.
If you would like to support the podcast, please talk about this with your friends or give us a review on iTunes. You can comment or contribute at TheoConPod, that's at TheoConPod, or check the link in the podcast description.
Welcome back, or if it's your first time here, thanks for stopping by. Today it's just myself, Carlos, and the chat room. If you want to get in on the chat room action, you can find us on Twitch. The usual links are in the show notes. We're usually recording on a Wednesday, or we're just streaming and chatting on a Wednesday. It has been a bit erratic, but yeah, so come and find us, and some of your comments might get read out live on the podcast and might even survive the editing room floor. Don't forget to check out Facebook for our Season 2 competition. Still only a handful of people have signed up to that. So there's a free t-shirt going. Reach out on any of our social media channels if you cannot find that, but it's on Facebook, on our page, and it should be pinned. And all the details are on there on how to get in on that.
No, I love our YouTube page. I think I might be one of the only people watch it because I think when I speak to most people, they all use it via the sort of Spotify or Apple or the Google podcast. But I use YouTube. It's because it's more interactive. You can leave notes. So if there's anything I say or you say you agree with or don't agree with, it's very interactive. And that's why some of the most successful podcasts I listen to, you can go onto YouTube and you can sort of, it's not real time, because obviously because when we record it, but this, you can actually leave comments and we can sort of interact with you. So that's why I like YouTube, because it's more interactive. And that's what we're trying to do, is connect with the listeners. And also we've had listeners take us in a completely different direction, where we've had people request certain topics or subjects, and we've gone down that route. And it's like suggestions you and I would never thought of. But yeah, that's the reason why I like YouTube, because it's more interactive and you're sort of closer to the listener then.
Yeah, again, links in the show notes for finding our YouTube or via social media. Also, I've put a lot of effort into the last few episodes anyway, because we've been talking about quite visual stuff, whether that's UFOs in the desert, whether it's rhinoceroses, or whether it's crystals bigger than a human that are in underground secret mines and things like that. And I've dug out the images, and
the Exorcist as well.
Yeah, the Exorcist image. You had to hide from that behind your sofa, didn't you? Yeah. So as we actually talk about stuff, I've been, sticking images up on the video at the same time, so you get that extra depth as well.
Yeah, try out the YouTube pages. I personally, the last two, I've even rang you up at like 11 o'clock at night saying, Andy, well played, that was good, I liked it.
Yeah, cheers, Carlos. Okay, cool. We've got no new reviews. We've got no audio submissions or any submissions to read out. If you want to send them over, please do so. Again, you'll get your recording played out on the podcast or read out on the podcast. So there we go.
Listen up, this is the main bit.
Today's the 21st of April 2021, and myself, Carlos, in the chat room are going to be talking about whether or not this is all just a simulation. Right, Carlos, you've been trying to engage in simulation chat for a couple of weeks now, and keep banging on about it and sending me.
Well, a few years now, a few years.
Well,
But
maybe,
obviously to
yeah,
get it on the for a podcast, yeah, the last sort of
yeah,
couple of months probably.
yeah, a couple of months. And you've sent me 20-minute long audio clips of the fact that you've dreamt about simulation, and I couldn't even listen to all of it because, yeah,
I was
crazy.
half asleep.
So I've got a bunch of questions, Carlos. Kick it off with the first one, right? Simulation. Are we all being controlled like in a computer game? Is someone controlling everything we do, or are we thinking for ourselves?
This is the bit. This is the hypothesis where I've read different literatures from different scientists who work in string theory or theoretical physicists or mathematicians. They don't know yet. So what they're trying to say, there's a couple of scenarios. Is it could this right? We're at this stage now where most of the people who are on this chat room, or you and I, are old enough to remember when computer games first started. It was like bat and ball, like a rectangle and a ball, sort of from the 70s or 80s. That was the
Yeah,
start of a computer game. Now, what we've evolved to now, when I spoke to you before, you were with your daughter playing Minecraft. So now you're in some kind of 3D world, which you're playing with millions of people simultaneously around the world. So if we take that level of development or technology in the next 50 to 100 years, we will not know the difference between a reality and virtual world. We won't know the difference. It'll just be it just literally we won't know the difference. So even if we took that rate in 1,000 years time, 10,000 years, the age of the cosmos of the Earth is that's like a drop in the ocean. So what these sort of scientists and mathematicians have been looking at is, say if we get that level where we can actually create another world
yeah,
within a computer, we could give that computer a set of laws, and they have the ability for free will or sort of their own consciousness, and they create another simulation within their simulation. So the question we need to ask is not so if this is a free will. Somebody could have created this universe and give it a set of rules, certain physics, where it can do this, it can do that. And you may think you have free will. And so the answer to your question is we probably this could be you and I having this conversation. It could be some kind of software update. Is somebody just pre-programming it like a computer and telling us what to say, what questions for you to ask, what questions do I answer, and that's why this simulation thing. It's not so much. It could be someone from a sort of more advanced species which are creating these anomalies, creating these universes, and they call them ancestor simulations. So, for example, say if you and I, in 1,000 years' time, when me and you are scientists, and I say, Andy, we went wrong in the 16th century. We went wrong. So, I tell you, what could we have done different as a species to make sure that never happens again? So we can create a universe and change. So, for example, Christopher Columbus doesn't go to the Americas. Christopher Columbus goes to China instead. So that changes, and then the Americas doesn't connect with Europe. So that would have been another 500-600 years where they don't connect. So that's what they're looking at now. So we could be some kind of experiment where something's gone wrong, and they've give us different scenarios. So that's the sort of the answer to your question is we don't know. Does free will exist? We
the
don't know.
answer the answer to my question is you don't know. So, I mean, you
No,
said
but
that
we don't know.
this whole conversation could have been pre-programmed or could be an algorithm. But,
Yeah,
dude, I don't even know what I'm gonna say next. Screwdriver, pear, flamingo. I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth.
yeah, but you say that though.
Until you've said something, I'm responding. Okay, but maybe I'm just programmed to think like that.
But your consciousness is could be a simulation as well. Your conscious could be a simulation because if you break it down and you create all these atoms, it could be a simulation. So it could be pre-programmed to certain random words.
That's my next question anyway. So are we actually conscious? can we make our own decisions? Or do we just think we're making our own decisions?
The mathematics says you can break the conscious down into sort of atoms and sort of computer code. So the answer to your question is conscious could be a computer code. So I'll just go on to that. So the scientists or theoretical scientists, physicists say, Sylvester James Gate, I think he goes by the name James Gate, has come across, is one of the top leading experts on string theory. They've come across this equation where literally on string theory, and it looks like mathematics. Or sorry, it is mathematics. There's lots of ones and zeros, and it's a specific kind of mathematics. It's a mathematics created in the 1940s from a guy called Claude Shannon. And literally, string theory is like a code system, and it looks like the code systems we use on search engines on, say, Google or browsers. So that's the scary thing now. So when we go into deep string theory, which is the creation of the universe, it's mathematics.
Right.
And it's a code, it's a computer code.
Bobby on the chat room's asking, so are we in a simulation now? Are we in it now? Or are we at the beginning of the journey? Are we going to be in it?
Good
Are we
question.
creating it?
Good question. So to sort of like, because the word infinite scares me, because it's like, I'm sure mathematicians, infinite, and they can sort of, in terms of mathematics, it makes sense. But when some people like you and I talk about infinite is just a scary number. It's a scary word as well. But let's just simplify it. So you've got the creator. So say universe number 1, for example, and we're universe number 1 billion, just to simplify it. So the original
A
universe
billion, that's
could have
simplifying it. Okay. No, go on.
just to simplify it. But
Yeah.
the original creator would have created, they would have got so far into their technological advances, they create a world, and they give that world a structure and sort of codes, so they can create themselves, and they think they've got free will, and they create a world within a world, and it has like a knock-on effect. They call it Ancestor Simulation. So the answer to Bobby's question is, we're either 1 billionth or we're number 1. So we could be the first one to spread the seed, or we're sort of part of a simulation. I don't think we're number 1. I think we're a simulation. So I think we've been created.
What about the other option where we're not in a simulation, Carlos? You don't seem to be even giving that one any sort of credibility.
Because that would say we are the most advanced species in this universe.
It doesn't mean that. There still could be advanced species out there. The universe, like you say, it's not infinite, but it's very, very, very large. And there could be other advanced civilizations out there, but they're just too far away to talk to us, and we're too far away from them to talk to them.
But look the way we're developing. We are developing similar worlds. The way you and I are talking now, it's a simulation. It's through technology. So
It's
in
not a
50 years' time,
simulation.
100 years,
The audio
no,
is
but it's just
simulated through digital
but,
things.
but look at the technology though. So within the next 50 to 100 years, you and I will never probably have to leave our homes. We'll be in this visual world.
I don't have to
So,
leave
and
it
that's,
now.
but the thing is, so, but that's what we'll have to do. We'll create, and that's what we'll do as a species. We'll create simulations to see where we've gone wrong. So, for example, I'm sure you and I are old enough to remember there's been times in our history where we've not, say, World War II ago. Could World War II been sort of evaded? Yes, this is what we should have done. We should have negotiated a little bit better with Stalin, Hitler, and XYZ, and maybe 50, 60, 70, 80 million people wouldn't have been killed. So, and if we could go back in time, we could go World War One, then sort of Genghis Khan, the Roman Empire. We could have changed little things and to avoid these mistakes. And what you do that, you create ancestor simulations where you look. It's like we do it now, where you sort of like you've got a CCTV on your car or like a camera, so you can look you can look at it and go, do you know what? If I was driving, it's a good job I was driving 30 miles an hour, because if I was driving 40 miles an hour, my braking distance wouldn't have been as good, and I would have gone into the back of that car, for example. So that's what we can do with simulations. We can create universes and worlds and see where it's gone wrong. and then make sure we don't make them mistakes ever again. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and yet you can do simulations on a small scale. I'm completely with that. That is what simulations are. It's what they're used for. When you're not playing a
But,
flight sim and
but this has gone
stuff
to the
like that.
next level and to universes now. So now we can do it with people, we can do it with accidents, we can do it with aviation, but now we can do it with universes.
Okay.
So that's the thing where so there's three hypotheses. With either as a civilization, you sort of you end up so you don't get to that stage of technology. You end up destroying yourselves. So it could be through war, could be through disease, could be an asteroid. So you don't get to that stage.
Yeah.
Or the other option is you don't really care. So
Okay.
you're very selfish. You don't develop simulations. And the third one is we are in a simulation, and it's like a natural progression. What do we do as a species? We sort of, as people, human beings, and animals as well. We breed, so we leave something behind, and that's what we probably are doing. We leave universes behind, but in a simulation.
Okay. I've got a few more questions. I've got a feeling either you're not going to be able to answer them or you've already covered it. But a similar question that I had coming up is been asked by Commander Kremer on the chat room. So I'll read the comment and then I'll say what my question was. So he's saying that your brain could easily be fooled if we could mimic the signals sent from our senses. That's why you'd never know if you're in a simulation from reality that you could be living. So my question was, are we 100% digital, or are we sort of flesh and blood somewhere? Is it like the Matrix thing? Are we sitting in a vat of goo plugged into a machine? I think
We
I
could
think I
be.
think you think
Sorry,
we're completely digital, but go on, I'll let you interpret that.
but the technology could allow us to create sentient beings. So we get the sense of, so we perceive and we have the sense of feeling. So that could be a computer software update. So the technology can do that. So it can create like a sentient being. So you think you're physical, but you're not. It's just because I read somewhere where you're technically, when you sit down on the bed, or so lie down on the bed, you're not actually touching the bed because the atoms are like magnets; they push themselves away. So technically, you're not
Yeah.
actually touching anything,
Well,
and
all,
that
all the
applies to you.
atoms
So
in
we could.
all the atoms in your body are not touching all the other atoms in your body, Carlos. So when you
So
break it down
that
to that um that minute level, then yeah, nothing's touching, but all atoms give off an energy field, like you say, like a magnetic pull, like when magnets push each other apart. So yeah, you can have a magnet hovering on top of another magnet, but yeah, I mean you couldn't measure it with a ruler or nothing, and
so
and and you make an
so
impression in
so
that mattress, you know,
yeah, I made
even
sort
though
of an
you don't,
impression.
even though technically you don't physically touch, it's crazy when you start getting down to microscopic. Well, it's not even microscopic, infinitely small distances. The same as
But
when you think
but
about vast distances in the universe. That's just as crazy.
oh, it
Because as
goes
humans,
absolutely crazy.
we cannot. It's hard to visualize without a nice little YouTube videos and Professor Brian Cox explaining it to us. So it's hard to get your head around. And 5 minutes after they've explained it, you're like, what was that again?
Professor Brian Cox has actually come on record literally about last week. Says we could be a hologram. He's actually said that we could be a hologram.
So he's
I think it
been
was
listening
if
to
you
too much David Icke.
David Icke or Nick Bostrom is the main guy behind all this. But David Icke was probably the early 2000s as well talking about this, but no one took him seriously. So what was the question regarding your brain?
Oh,
Was it something?
yeah, whether no, the question is, so Commander Kremen seems to think that the only way he can get his head around it is the fact that we're plugged in. We're being used by some aliens or something as batteries, and we're just plugged into to a
Oh, yeah, so
world.
like the Matrix,
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
exactly like
We
the
create.
Matrix. Yeah, exactly like the Matrix is the easiest way to explain it. He sees it like that. So we are actually alive human beings thinking for ourselves. It's just that all our senses are being fooled, and we're not really I'm not really sat at this desk talking to you. I'm lying in a vat of goo.
Because I sort of looked at her, and he did bring up that a while ago when we were sat at home talking, and I started sort of thinking it was quite disturbing, the thoughts that were coming forward. I didn't like that scenario, so I started delving more into it, and I just come across this Ancestor simulation where we create simulations to sort of like plan out. So we said, you know what, the universe was fantastic for 7 billion years, but for those 2 billion years, it was awful. It was awful. Could we change the computer coding? Could we change the software on that bit? So, and that's the bit where you run simulations to make sure you don't make mistakes. And also, if you as a species you end up dying off, you've left like a replica for yourself, like we do now with climate change caves. We sort of like, if we got wipes off the face of the planet in 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years time, people come to the Earth, they'll find that cave with all our climate change products, things like seeds and different plants and XYZ. So that's what these probably uh, higher beings are probably doing. They're leaving replica universes behind,
Yeah.
so they don't make mistakes. So they might make. It's like there's a universe going on now. When this is a bit when it starts getting scary, infinite. That you and I are sat in another universe, but you're me and I'm you, or we're having this conversation and I've said one extra word, or you said one less word, and that's what they
Yeah,
do.
that's
Just
that's that's your parallel dimension theory, where every single action as a splits off, and again it's infinite. But you're applying that as well as infinite computer programs.
You can help support the podcast or keep in touch with the boys by following them on Twitch and subscribing on YouTube. Please check the link in the show notes when you get a moment.
If you found out tomorrow that we are in a simulation, right? Would it change anything? Would it change your job or your life? Would you do anything different? Is there anything you can do about it?
for I've been looking into this subject now properly for about 5-6 years, and when I really got crazy into it, say 3.5, 4 years ago, for about 6 months, I won't say depressed. Depressed is the wrong word, but I was really scared, upset, and I don't know what I feel, agitated, because I started going to my mum's and my sister's house, and I was looking at my mum, my sisters, my nieces, and I'm thinking, do I really love them, or is that just a software update telling me to love them? Because I love my sisters and my mum and my nieces, but there's people out there who despise their parents, despise their siblings, despise their children. So you think, have I just been a lucky person that I've had a mum and dad who is very loving? But then you've had other people where they've had children and they've had loving parents, but they've decided to shoot the mum and dad with a sawn-off shotgun. And it's like, it's like, is that a software update where we'll give these people a loving family, but these people will give them a very challenging uh, family? So it goes back to the questions like, have we got free will? I don't know. So it could be explained as a software update.
you, you keep saying software update as if that's something, as if that's a real thing.
No, but because that's the way to explain it. Because you just give people scenarios, and it's like you sometimes. I bet, have you ever thought to yourself, why does that person do that to his daughter or his son or his brother or his sister or his mother? It says you'll never comprehend it. And obviously they could blame it to mental health, blame it on XYZ, but maybe it's the program to keep. There's a thing by a mathematician. So I don't know if you're on the computer there. Sumit Conway is a mathematician, an English mathematician called James. I'm going to say James Conway, but it's definitely Conway, where he created this virtual world. It's called the Game of Life, and you give it certain rules. And by giving this computer system simulation certain rules, they created complex structures, patterns on the computer. I think it's called the Game of Life by
Okay.
it was an English mathematician called Conway, and you get all these. And now apply that to the universe. We'll give gravity as the main ingredient, and it will give these certain elements, so nitrogen and carbon and so forth. And then you say, what will this universe create once you it's like some kind of primordial soup. You mix it all around, and we'll create an octopus. We'll create a killer whale. We'll create a human being. We'll create some kind of goldfish, and that's what it does. You just You're putting all these sort of these equations out there, and you just see what happens.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
There's a computer game like that, supposedly like that, and basically a guy wrote an algorithm so that it basically just it can come up with billions and trillions of different possibilities. And you fly around. It's called No Man's Sky. You fly around to planets, and you can land on planets, and you never know. But even though he's got this formula that can spin out all these different combinations, it's still driven by parameters. It's like, okay, think of a number. Now think of another number and times it by a third number. And you're still limited by the numbers you can put in, because you can only, it'll be like, think of a number between 1 and 999, then another number between 1 and 999. When you start timesing them all together, this is, I mean, because he's obviously worked it out. It's not infinite, but he's worked the number out. He can come up with however many billion or trillion it is by timesing these numbers
the
together.
universe
So
is the same though.
that's all your different combinations.
The universe is the same though. It's got some kind of structures and some limits, like we can't travel faster than the speed of light, or everything's governed by gravity. It's like gravity is and we've got
Yeah.
what we account for 4.9% of the universe. We know what it is, but then is that over 95.1%? It's either it's dark energy or dark matter. So there is obviously we already know, say, call it 5% of the universe. The rest we don't know, but it's all some kind of string theory. Is now obviously this guy, this James Gate, is actually the mathematics says when string theory is probably the creation of the universe has got a basic mathematical code, lots of ones and zeros, and it's a mathematics, like I said, created from Claude Shannon in the 1940s, and that's when I start thinking, wow, it's like a computer simulation. That is, it's like everything has a code. It's hard to sort of get your head around it and stuff like, because like I said, like I said
I
back
can
to the beginning
completely get my head around it. I just
on this subject we said before, where it's like I felt sad and stuff, but then and I started, do you know what? It is what it is. What can I do about it? It's not much I can do about it. But I started thinking, how do for me to comprehend this and sort of understand it, I need to think like a parachute. And what do you mean? It's like you need to a parachute only opens when it's only works when it's open, and that's what I did. So I had to sort of think about it. What can I do about it? Just at the moment, there's not much you can do about it, but maybe there is a way of going out the simulation and coming back in. But it's like any computer; they always leave back doors. Obviously, you're more techy than me, but they may leave certain, call it like a wormhole or a Rosen bridge, where you can go through different, you can link in with other programs. And so yeah, that's the answer to your question. So
Control Alt
on
and
that one.
Delete. That's what it is. Turn it off and turn it on again. Right. Let's say. So I've got another question. Let's say we're not in a sim, right? Let's just imagine
Okay.
that wacky
This is
idea
reality.
just for a second, right? This is real reality. It is what it is, right? Does the fact that what we have, what we know, is that not amazing, not more amazing and wondrous and special than it being just someone's computer program? The fact that this is real and it's not a computer program, is that not more amazing to think like that?
Yeah, of course it's amazing. That's why that's why I like it. That's why it's fascinating. It's intriguing. Where you say, is this just natural that we're thinking? So if I say, think of a yellow elephant, thinking of a yellow elephant, where's that come from? So it's like, yeah. So it is what you're saying. Is it? So you get the sense this is free will, and I think Commander Kremlin will probably think we don't have free will. So it's like you could be programmed to think the way you're having free will, and the questions you're saying, it could be you creating it, or it could be someone from a more advanced species putting these words into your mouth, just giving you certain vocabularies, certain words for you to say. So the answer to your question is it is amazing, but you have to take the idea this is probably a 50-50 chance this could be a simulation.
Okay, I've seen this 50-50 thing on the internet as well. Listeners, if you've ever been on TikTok? You've probably seen videos that people have shared or on YouTube going, "Oh, is this proof we're in the Matrix?" Where it's something like a cat will walk past the door and then a cat will walk past the door again. That I've taken directly out of the Matrix. It was a deja vu comment thing, but they see things like that, or they'll video a plane and it looks like the plane is frozen in midair, and it's not. It's just that they're traveling at the same time as the plane is traveling, and it's just a visual optic illusion. Carlos, what
To be
evidence have you?
like a glitch, I mean,
Like a glitch,
like a
yeah.
glitch.
People are saying it's glitches. Here's proof of a glitch that we're living in a matrix. Carlos, what have you experienced? What have you got? What evidence have you got for these glitches that explain it's a computer
There's
program?
just two or three I can say. Well, firstly, the way I look at it. So if you got the computer power to create a universe this complex, then you shouldn't be having software updates or glitches because you've gone past that stage. So, but if there was a glitch in the Matrix, you could easily stop it, rewind it, wipe everybody's memory, and sort of keep and press play again. So that's one way I've looked at that way. So okay, if there was a glitch, I'd stop it, wipe everybody's memory, and then just rewind it 30 seconds, and then press play, and then you'd be none the wiser. That's one scenario. The other one, which is you and I and Nick have covered, is the Mandela effect. Could there be a glitch in the Matrix where they've done things and they've stopped it, they've slightly rewinded it, but then I'll give you an example. You go to work in the morning, you've left your car keys on the kitchen table. That's it. You left them there. You go back and they're not there. It's like, can it do there 10 minutes ago? I'm only do there. You're looking under your bedroom, under the bed, your coat pockets, the washing machine, the windowsill. You're looking. You go back and the keys are back on the other side of the table. You think, well, I must have left it there. That's happened. I'm sure that's happened to everyone. You think, I looked there, it wasn't there, but it's there now on the other side of the table. So that could be a little glitch in the Matrix. That's one. That's one scenario. There's another one where I think I've spoken to yourselves and Nick about this, where I've many years ago, I sort of in a sort of trance state, I sort of met myself, but I was like a sort of a female version of me. It was me, so it was like, but very feminine. I don't mean with long hair, boobs, and all, but it was me, sort of, but very feminine me. I recognized her, but I didn't know her, or I knew her, but I didn't recognize her. And she was sort of, I won't say upset with me, but she was sort of like, I'm going to say she, because obviously it just looked like me, but more feminine. But it's like, she was a bit upset, like looking away from me, just like as if to say, yeah, I've told you. And it's like, so I sort of like, and she says, I'm going to show you something, and then I'm going to wipe it all away. So that would, and literally, I remember so much just about play, and then I don't remember anything after that. So I've had that scenario happen a couple of times, and I just thought it's probably some kind of what do
Psychotic
we call it?
episode.
That's not endorphins in the brains and stuff like that. But I started thinking, then I started putting together, could I have just linked in with another simulation universe or a parallel universe, whatever you want to call it? And I've managed to tap into, like we said before, you and I could be having this conversation in another parallel universe where you said an extra word and I've said one less word, and I've tapped into the person who created this simulation or created me within this simulation. So those are obviously that doesn't mean that's happened to me, so it's gospel. But I've put these things together and think, okay, it's not like the always like in the Matrix where you got the glitch where the cat or deja vu they refer to it, don't they? It's deja vu, but
Yeah.
that could be sort of me tapping into uh, sort of another simulation or another parallel universe or the creator of this universe, for example. And yeah, and that's the thing where we also talked about the Mandela effect. That could be one where they've just stopped it, they've rewound it, and not everything's gone back to place.
Okay, so this software update has not updated everyone in the database,
But
is what you're saying,
no,
with the
it's
Mandela
updated
effect.
it.
Well, why would people remember I get what you say. I get what you're saying there with that one.
It's a subject where it's difficult to have banter with. You can have fun, but because it's so complex and it's got everyone baffled.
He's got everyone baffled. I think the only person baffled is you, man. I mean, I'm trying to be
No,
nice.
it's
I'm trying to be nice, but because you've had some,
yeah, but I wish I just wish I just didn't have this inquisitive mind, and I just wish I believed everything I read, and I wish I believed everything was written in the sun was correct and stuff like that.
but
So
because
it's
you've had dreams, dude. Let's call
no,
them
this is
dreams.
this is not just this is just like
I know, but just to summarize,
pieces.
I know. Let's just summarize it, but let's just like group them into dreams. Because you've had these dreams and these trances, if you want to
Experiences.
call it, a trance rather than an experience. Because you've had these dreams. Dreams is just your mind firing weird thing. Dreams are dreams. You can dreams of all sorts of fantastical, crazy things. It doesn't make any dream true, does it? It doesn't make it.
But I'm sure our ancestors and forefathers took their dreams sort of more serious, but it's because
I don't think they interpreted them
we,
literally, though, did they?
no, I think they did. Some of them probably thought they were talking to from gods and stuff like that, or deities. So, but what this does, the dream, it's like you get people who go into sort of like lucid dreaming, and they have that sort of kind of out of body experiences. And so, yeah, I think dreams. I'm not the biggest dreamer in the world, but when I do dream, I dream big, kind of thing. It's one of them. See, if I have really random dreams, or I have dreams where, wow, it's sort of like, yeah, that's quite scary. Because the voicemail I left you and Nick was probably about 20 minutes. I think I wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, wherever it was, and literally grab my phone, press record, and within 5 seconds of waking up, so I sound very groggy and stuff like that because I'm still asleep. But it's just, and I thought the dream was so real that I kept waking up, going to the toilet, and then going back to sleep again, and just carrying on where I left off, as if it's like I've just pressed pause on Netflix and carried back in on.
Dude, I've had dreams like that where you can wake up and then go back to sleep and carry on dreaming. But what I didn't wake. I didn't then when I finally woke up proper or woke up for the day. Then yeah, you think about it for a while, but it didn't sort of like there was no like revelations. I hadn't seen aliens or
But I was asking the questions as I was going to bed. I was asking the questions. I was like, okay, I'm ready for the answers, or I think I'm hopefully I'm ready for the answers, because I believe where people have these premonitions or visions or experiences, it's not random. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're not ready. Some people are not ready for that, and then I do believe if you sort of open up your mind and say, right, I'm ready to accept certain messages or XYZ, then things will filter through. Because otherwise, if you're a complete non-believer and don't believe it, and someone turned up in your mind, you'd be frightened. You'd be absolutely frightened. So I think once
I
you
wouldn't be.
sort of,
I'm a non-believer, but I wouldn't be frightened. But I just think that's crazy. You can't. Yeah, you can you can't answer questions that your brain doesn't know, and then in a dream state because it's playing on your mind, it's that you start throwing all these crazy things. I mean, I've had
oh no,
some wacky dreams, man, but wait, I just know they're not real. Let me ask a question from Bobby in the chat room.
okay.
So he says, if we're in a simulation, do you think there are some people that are aware that they're in a simulation and they have some sort of control and they can sort of guide it towards their own will and purpose? For example, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates.
Good question, Bobby. I believe once you sort of grasp it and you can manipulate the simulation, because you get people, right, just to summarize it, you get people, we're not all dealt the same deck of cards in life. Some people are born rich, some people are born poor, some people have a great education, some people have a poor education, but we all got the ability to do something with ourselves and develop ourselves. So what people you get people where, oh, the reason why I'm not CEO of that company is because of the because they were sort of because of racist or prejudice. It's because of female, because of male, because of X. So they're putting obstacles in themselves. Why? When you get these other people who will go, I will be number one. I will be the richest man in the world. I will be the champion boxer, for example. So what they've done, it's like they've opened up the simulation, and they've allowed themselves to be better. It's like they've upgraded themselves. You know, like you got in a computer game where you got a computer where you kept getting beat on level 42. Then somebody gives you a little cheat where you just get unlimited lives for the next 3 or 4 rounds. You go straight through, and that could be your mindset. And the people have talked about, and this I'm not gone deep into it, but people say sometimes if you go against the norm, which is you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I will be XYZ. I will be the best person at what I do at my job, because your mind's reset it, because your mind goes A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a pattern. You've been creating a pattern. Once you go against the pattern, you sort of reset yourself and start again. So the answer to the question is yes. I think once you be able to understand the software, the coding, you can manipulate it into your to benefit you.
Okay.
But the answer to your question is this could also open up portals and doorways to people using it negatively, because people might use it and go, I'm going to become more powerful, but I'm going to use this power to destroy other people. So it's open up to misuse.
Okay,
So
Carlos, given the fact that you're woke to this now and you're fully aware of it, so you're basically telling us you're either going to be the next multimillionaire, you're going to be the next Elon Musk,
no, you could
or
be next.
you're
Could be
going to
the next.
misuse it and you're going to be the next Hitler, or worse.
Or worse, yeah. Because no, but because that's what people. How many times have you come across people and they go, the reason why they're not successful is because of X, Y, Z. They blame everyone except themselves. But you get people who have created sort of empires from nothing, from
Yeah,
scratch. It's
it's
like,
dude, it's
there's
extremely easy. It's extremely easy for someone to, let's say Elon Musk, right? It's extremely easy for someone like Elon Musk to say, right, I self-taught all this. I created a company. I sold it. I made some money. I did some stuff with that money which made me more money and more money and more money. And I did it all because of my PMA, my positive mental attitude and outlook and everything. And if I can do it,
it's
anyone
a
can
little
do
bit
it.
more than that. It's
But
a little bit more than that.
okay,
But
but it's easy for him
it,
to say that, and then but it is true. Someone else that didn't have the exact same ideas and wasn't as lucky. What if he never sold PayPal? What if PayPal didn't take off and it was a different internet money payment thing, World Pay, or I can't even think of any
he
of
would have
your,
done, he would have done something else. That's the thing with these people. It's
but you
like
don't know.
if
You
you
don't know.
if you tell a person, or if you say, for example, if you tell a girl she's ugly, she's fat, she's spotty, she's hairy, she's this, she's going to believe it. But if you tell that person that it's sort of like you're fantastic, you're beautiful, you're confident, that person will grow. But also that person will know how to manipulate their surroundings and the simulation itself. And that's it. Your surrounding is probably the simulation. Because have you ever walked into a room and you think, "Wow, this guy's got." I don't know who he is, but there's a certain aura about him because he can manipulate the room. So he can make people say yes. He can make people say no because he knows how to manipulate the simulation around him or her.
Okay, right, Carlos. Have you got, yes or no? I don't want you to just theorize. Have you got any proof we are in a sim? Proof, any proof, other than dreams. I want, is the proof that we're in a sim out
Um,
there?
I don't feel visit. I have proof through experiences and what I've witnessed and seen, but it's not recorded or documented. It's what I've spoken about, and so it's like
But so
it's
you can't prove, you can't generate evidence other than,
just like I can't prove to you I love my mum.
got you.
I can't prove
Okay.
I love you, my mum to you. I can't.
Okay.
I love my
So
mum, but I can't prove it to you.
Science, science in there.
What if I have proof that we're not in a sim?
Um,
Do you think I can prove that we're not in a sim? Or do you think it's just as hard for me to prove we're not in a sim?
I don't think you could prove we're in a so we're not in a sim. You're saying this is not a simulation.
This is not a
That's what we're saying.
simulation, yeah.
I
All
don't
right.
think you can prove that.
You don't think, okay, let me have a stab at it then, right? So this is not my proof. This is a couple of scientists that discovered that it's actually impossible to model the physics of our universe on the biggest theoretical computer you could ever imagine. So these two guys, Zohar Ringel and Dmitry Kovrisin, they are theoretical physicists from the University of Oxford and the Hebrew University in Israel. And a couple of years ago, they put together a team of mathematicians and physicists, and they published a research paper. And it wasn't originally to answer this question, but it does answer the question of, is it possible to create a computer? Now you can say to me, that's just based on the technology, blah blah blah, that we know. However, right, one of the things they did is, according to their research, right, and their best approximations for the best ever computer you could ever imagine, right? Based on, because computers are physical things, but um, what they came up with, right? They said it would require a terabyte of RAM just to store 20 spins of a single particle, right, at the quantum level, right? So it's like smaller than an atom, right? A particle, right? Now, just to simulate your hand moving, how many billions of particles are in your hand, right? So just to simulate one, it's a terabyte of RAM, right? If you then extrapolate that to a few hundred spins, then the computer would require so much memory, it it would be it would require more atoms than there are in the universe. That's just one particle spinning a couple of hundred times in this virtualized system, right? So they can't even do it for one particle, you know, for any sort of length of time, because it would require more atoms in the universe to build this RAM. Never mind all the other gubbins you need to run a simulation, just to build memory big enough to hold that data.
Well, to sort of jump in on that,
Go
so
on.
I've looked into that, and someone give a scenario where, say for example, if I said to you, cut that person's leg off, what's going to come out? It could be, yeah, you're going to think it's going to be tendons, veins, blood, muscle, bone, all that's going to come out. But that's only once we've cut the leg. Once the leg is all attached, that body could be empty. So they could be saving RAMs or data or information on the person. So the person, we could be hollow. We could be hollow. It's only when it's a bit like people talk about the moon. When we
Yeah.
go to the moon, we physically landed on the moon, but there's scientists out there who say the moon is just a disk or a
Yeah.
hollow object. Only when we go to the moon, only when we physically go to the moon and take rocks, it becomes solid. But from a distance, it's hollow. So
Okay.
they've saved RAMs, they've saved
Yeah.
memory space by making it hollow. It's like if I cut my table leg, there's going to be wood in there, but it could be just could be empty space. Only when I cut the leg, the creator of the simulation adds fills it in basically.
Even if everything was 99% empty, you still couldn't. I mean, yeah. I think what you're confusing is the fact that we can now do deep fake videos and things like that, where it's very hard to distinguish Tom Cruise from the real Tom Cruise. A virtual Tom
No,
Cruise
not
from a
not.
real Tom Cruise,
But
right? But
we
that
create
that
virtual
is
worlds. We've got virtual
yeah,
worlds.
yeah, yeah. But that is just the outer layer. You've still got to then if you want that to be a simulate, that is not a simulation. That is a replica of something, um, and that is possible to do, right? What you're not doing is this deep fake Tom Cruise that you've made. He's not thinking for himself. He's not physical.
Well,
He's not
that's
interacting with.
not
He's not
simulation.
interact. He's yeah, but it's not a true simulation in what you mean. It's not.
Do you know what's hard to create? A real universe. Do you know what's easy to create? A simulated universe. And
But it's
so
not
that's why.
physical, Carlos. Is it?
Well, to us it's physical, but it's not simulation.
Okay.
No, it's not.
All right.
That's what it's like. That's why you're talking about technology. What would our computers be like in 10,000 years time? 1,000 years, so 100,000. Let's throw a crazy number out. What will our technology be like in 1,000,000 years time if we don't kill ourselves or blow ourselves up? So that's the bit where that's why it's such a difficult subject to get around on. It's like
To have memory and RAM, you still need physical matter to build these devices and to run stuff on it. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not gonna come up with. You're not going to be able to come up with something that's not physical that can store data on it, and therefore the amount of data, the amount of
what do you mean
data.
the simulated world? Do you mean?
Well, no, if you're in a simulation, technically you can do anything, but if this is a simulation, then what they're saying is for us to create our own simulation within our simulation, we have not been simulated with enough atoms in our universe to create a computer chip with enough RAM to store that data on. Never mind power the computer chip, and all the other bits that you need to do with it.
Once we get to that stage of evolution, then we will be able to create simulated worlds. And we'll give that. So if you and I in 10,000 years' time sat at a table and said, "This we went wrong around the dinosaur period. Let's see what we could do different with that." So we'll create scenarios and we can tweak it a little bit, and we'll give them free will. We'll give them conscious, because you can actually create conscious through computer code, and then we can just put different scenarios. So we won't give them Donald Trump this time. We'll give them X, Y, Z. I mean, we'll see what does that do anything to the world they live in now. And that's it. You run, and they call them ancestor simulations, where you sort of go back, and then you think you're talking about obviously the technology. Yeah, we've not at that stage to creating that technology yet, but in our simulation, in probably say 1,000 years time, we will be able to.
But these physicists are saying you're not going to be able to do it. There aren't enough atoms in the universe to generate anything with enough RAM to store that amount of data that you would need to store on it to do that.
But you were
That's what
talking,
they're
we're
saying.
talking
They're
now,
saying it's physically impossible.
but it's not physical; it's simulated. So you can create everything. You can create anything.
To simulate something, Carlos, you need computer programming power to run the simulation. It's not
Correct.
possible. It's not possible to generate that computer program, is what they're saying. To store all these different particles that are interacting with each other. There's 8 billion people on the planet at the moment, all doing the different things at exactly the same time. You couldn't even simulate two people in a true simulation that were thinking for themselves, fully animated, down to the level. We know, scientists know, that we are built up of atoms, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
so physically they can go down to the atomic level of every single object, and we know we're physically made up of something. So if they can see that with the science we've got in this simulation, right, then that has to be simulated somewhere. So to simulate all these atoms, you would need more atoms than there are available in the entire universe.
You have to open your mind on this one. It's like if the way we're developing now, we are creating simulated worlds through simulation, through
We're not.
aviation, through accident. We are creating that, and we're doing it online now. People
Very
go to
very base
dot
on very basic levels. Very very basic
very
levels,
yes.
Carlos.
So what have we come from the 1980s to now? And then, so in 40 years time, 40 years, we've had a quantum leap. What we're going to be like in another 10, 20, 30, 40, 1,000 years time? So we'll literally have our own world with our own laws.
We
We'll probably
won't.
create. We'll have a different.
We won't.
That's it.
They can't even get the AI right for just one robot. Dude, do you not think then, right, that this simulation hypothesis, the fact that people that say they can prove it's not, and people would just argue to say that, well, you're in a simulation, so the evidence that you collect is simulated evidence, therefore you can't prove that you're not in a simulation. Do you think it's not similar to the flat Earth argument, where it's just started out or just is a thought experiment? It's an interesting hypothetical question, doesn't really have an answer, and you've just gone down a wormhole with it. Do you not think we should?
No,
And if it is,
I think I
go
think
on.
that is would be very disrespectful, because it's sort of like, it's if I talk to someone about politics and I sway a little bit to the left, I'm Leon Trotsky. If I talk to someone about politics and I sway too much to the right, I'm Adolf Hitler. If I talk to someone about politics and I'm very central, I'm a coward. I'm sitting on the fence. So it's just because people can't prove or disprove, you've aligned it with flat Earth. So you probably should have said, okay, it's interesting. Maybe I need to investigate, because a flat Earth is like, it's like when someone says I was abducted by aliens, then a woman says I was abducted by aliens, and they brought me back a fish finger. So it's like,
No.
well, we got one guy who may have had some kind of visitation, but then you've aligned it with someone who's just met a fish finger. So
I've aligned it with flat Earth because when you speak to most flat Earth people, they say they got it. They say they got into flat Earth because they thought it was interested. They didn't believe it. They thought it was just a thought experiment. And then they go that much down the rabbit hole that they actually start believing the stuff itself. So that's why I've aligned it. So it was just an example. Might not be a brilliant example. I'm not being disrespectful, but
to simulation,
it,
not to me, but to simulation
but
kind of thing.
yeah, but it
Yeah, but
is, yeah.
it's one of them. It's one of them where when you start reading the people who are researching it, the people who are sort of leading the research on this, it's not like it's the people. If I said to you, we need to find a cure for cancer tomorrow, these are the people you would call. So that's why it's people like Professor Richard Dawkins, is Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Greene, Brian Cox. Brian Cox, I think it was actually on this morning, and they cut him off after, because he says they talked about wormholes, and he says there's a chance now we might not be real. This could be holographic. And they go, okay, I'll leave it at that then. I won't talk about it now. And it's like, as if to say, shut the fuck up, don't talk about that. It's like, and that's what Professor Brian Cox said. He actually said it. I think it was on This Morning as well. And you got people, all these people, leading scientists, and they obviously, of course, they're in the hypothesis, and they say it could be 50-50. It could be not, or it could be.
Don't forget you can leave us a review on iTunes and we will mention it on the show, or send us an audio message to get your voice on air. You can ask us or say anything you like. Check out the links on our social media for our merch store. Each purchase will contribute 50 pence towards supporting the podcast. Also, subscribing to our YouTube and Twitch channels, or sharing this podcast with friends is very much appreciated.